Hello, everyone. It's Peter Moran from Property Central. Now, I'm here today with our guests. It's Nick from Innovate Finance. And Nick, you were with us about a month ago, so welcome back.
Thanks, Peter. Great to be back. A bit different to last time, but we can only do what we can do these days.
That's right. So most unusual circumstances, again, being under COVID conditions. So we are doing this as a Zoom meeting recording. And as you'll see, Nick, I wish I was sitting on the beach right now, but unfortunately that's not quite the case, but we can only dream.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Nick, speaking of the beach, obviously a lot of people, especially with lockdown at the moment, the dream is to be able to transition out of their existing home and to move closer to the beach and have that seaside escape. So we're going to talk about how we can make that happen for people and how they can really transition from one house to the next using what we used to refer to in the old days as bridging finance. I think these days you most commonly call it relocation finance. So if you could just give our listeners or our audience out there a bit of a rundown of how someone might transition from that property that they're currently living in now to their dream home if they haven't sold and they need to borrow money to make that transition happen.
Absolutely, Peter. I think the age-old story is that often you find the place you want to buy before you even think about the place that you're currently in and selling that. And then obviously that creates a little bit of a time issue regarding how you're actually going to facilitate that. So what bridging finance in essence does is it allows you to have the time to put your current property on the market and sell it. But before that property actually sells or before it settles, bridging finance allows you to purchase the new property and hold both properties at once, both lots of debt until you actually get to that sale period of your current property. So it's a great tool in which can give you the time. So the bridging finance can be from 6 to 12 months, depending on the lender. So particularly in this market, obviously you're unlikely to need 6 months, but it gives you that period of time of comfort rather than rushing around to put your property correctly on the market, but secure the property that you really want to get.
Now, you touched on a very scary word for most people there, and that is debt. And of course, along with debt comes interest payments and interest rates. And that's where a lot of people think of the old days of bridging finance, where it might have been up around 12, 15% or more. So how's it going to happen for those people that really want to get out of their current home and into the dream home?
Exactly. Bridging, I guess one thing with bridging finance is from a bank's point of view, a lot of the time, they don't make a lot of money out of it. So in the past, we saw those really interesting products for bridging. But in today's world, very different. There's lenders out there now that charge just the normal interest rates. So, the last couple of bridging loans I've done have been at 2.5% or, around that mark. Wow. And the other beauty of bridging finance is that during that period when you may be loaded up with more debt than you ever have been, given you're carrying both properties at once, you're allowed to capitalize that interest. So what that means is you're not actually making those payments. Those payments will be accrued on the loan until you sell, then they'll be cleared, and then the new loan for the new purchase will commence and you'll be making those repayments from there.
Okay. So could you maybe step us through an example, for instance? So let's say I live in maybe Berkeley Vale at the moment, and we'll use a mortgage figure that you have in mind that I may still have outstanding on that property. I've now found the home of my dreams over near the beach, as you can see. So what's involved in terms of the dollar cost? Yeah,
absolutely. So I've got a little nice example on my other screen here. So excuse me for looking over. But so say your property at the moment is worth $600,000.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a $300,000 mortgage, and you've found your dream property for $800,000, and you've only got $40K in the bank that you can put down as a down payment to secure.
Right.
So say you've done that. Obviously, there's a couple of other costs that are going to come up with purchasing that property, stamp duty, all that sort of stuff. So let's say it's 35 grand.
Yep.
What bridging finance is going to allow in that situation is it's going to look at a couple of things. So it's going to look at, the existing value of your current property is 600,000. The property you're looking to purchase is 800,000, and all up, you're roughly going to need $1 million and 91,000 to purchase the new property, cover stamp duty and costs, and refinance your current loan whilst you're selling your current property.
Right.
What the bank looks at there is to make sure that it's still within an acceptable lending margin. So what I mean there is that total debt divided by the total value during the bridging period. As long as that's acceptable, then they're going to be reasonably happy. The other thing that you consider with a bridging scenario is that the lenders are looking at what the end debt position looks like from a serviceability point of view. So often people get a bit confused and think, oh, why would the bank let me have so much money for this 6-month period? How could I possibly afford it? Well, what the bank actually looks at is, what's the end position? Because they've got comfort that they've got these 2 properties as security. They know that one's going to sell. Well, you've said that you're definitely selling. It's on the market. You generally have to provide, the sales, either a sales contract or the confirmation from the real estate agent that it's on the market.
Yep.
So they're comfortable from that perspective. So what happens in that period? All that lending gets drawn up, allows you to settle on the property that you want to purchase. And then, within 3 to 6 months later, when your sale of your existing property goes through, obviously the bank takes that funding, pulls it in, draws the loan down to what the actual loan amount's going to be for the forever after in your new property.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, let's say, we're talking now the middle of August. I go out this weekend, I found the home of my dreams. I want to buy it before I've sold. So I do that. I put down my deposit to secure that home. It's a 6-week contract, which means I have to settle on the purchase of that by the end of September. So that's where the bridging finance will kick in from the end of September. My current home is not on the market yet. It's going to take maybe 2 weeks to get that ready to go on the market. So that goes on the market, say at the end of August. It might take another 2 to 3 weeks to sell. And that's on maybe an 8-week settlement, which could lead us up until sometime maybe towards the middle of September to the end of September.
Yeah.
So then it's just that carryover period that the bridging finance will apply for. Is that correct?
Exactly right. I think that one of the other things that I like to note, and something that often people aren't aware of because we haven't always been in this environment where things sell so quickly, is that banks actually do set a minimum period for bridging finance between the purchase and the sale. And generally that is 4 weeks or 30 days. Just because, as you can understand, there is a lot of back office stuff happening with Lands Titles Office and movement of mortgages and names on titles. There is a period there where they need it to, all happen. So it can't be, within 2 weeks or within 3 weeks generally, because things just won't have changed names and things won't have occurred in the back office. So that's something else that often we have to make sure people are aware of.
Right. So I just recounting my time frame then. I think I got my dates a little bit wrong. I talked about the end of September, but realistically, if I'm purchasing and selling, if my property sale doesn't go through for another month, it's going to take until probably the end of October.
Yeah, which would work out. That's a pretty standard time frame.
So then I guess in terms of the dollar figure, effectively it's not really going to cost me that much more at the end of my bridging finance to make sure I've secured the property that I want, especially in a rising market where we've seen values jumping by, $2,000 or $3,000 a week.
Exactly. And so for that scenario there, even when you take out selling costs, and the selling costs I look at are probably not very accurate. So for the $600,000 property, I've got selling costs of $35,000 to be safe. So you've got net sale proceeds of roughly $570,000 before you clear the mortgage. And then I've got in my calculations that the customer retains $40,000 to do some fix ups, paint the house, whatever they want to do. And that means the end debt picture. So once everything's sold, done, all moving forward, you're starting off with a mortgage of roughly $575,000. So it's quite a comfortable position moving forward when you've upgraded from a $600,000 to $800,000 property.
And I'm living on the beach.
Exactly.
Sort of. We can only dream.
Exactly right.
That's good. Well, Nick, that's really good advice for people out there. As I said, look, it is still a very fast-moving market, even with the COVID slowdown. We haven't really seen that effect coming through. Properties are still selling fairly quickly. There's a lot of buyer interest coming through. So if anyone's hesitant about making the move, should they buy before they sell? I guess if they want some more information, where can they reach you on, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll pop our link down in underneath this video, but my mobile is 0407 544 649. Happy to field any sort of questions around this sort of stuff. I can understand it's quite confusing, but we do it day in, day out. So yeah, happy to have that chat.
Sounds like you're the expert to talk to.
Thanks,
Right,
Pete.
thanks for your help. Really appreciate it. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Bye.